How do they manage to turn the absurd into the addictively entertaining? With 26 seasons of non-stop laughs, we're counting down the top 10 gags that'll have you laughing like Cartman in a candy store. But before we start the video, I dare you to subscribe to this channel. Number 10. Is that Bruce Vilanch? A recurring comedic theme in South Park involves the misinterpretation and mistaken identity of Bruce Vilanch, a real-life comedy writer. This running gag centers on characters confusing Bruce Vilanch with other individuals or using his name in various humorous scenarios. The confusion often leads to absurd situations, with characters assuming Bruce Vilanch's identity or attributing actions to him that are unrelated to reality. The recurring use of Bruce Vilanch's name as a punchline adds an element of surprise and absurdity to the show.
Man, Captain America, Thor, and Bruce Vilanch.
The running gag showcases South Park's knack for taking everyday situations or real-world references and twisting them into comedic and exaggerated scenarios. The repeated instances of characters mistakenly associated Bruce Vilanch with different contexts create a humorous pattern that fans of the show can anticipate and enjoy. Number 9. Cartman vs. Wendy. A recurring and humorous element in South Park is the ongoing rivalry between Eric Cartman and Wendy Testaburger. Their interactions provide a consistent source of entertainment throughout the series.
What's up? What's up? Wendy, don't forget, I'll tell my mom on you.
From innocent disagreements to elaborate schemes, Cartman and Wendy's dynamic is characterized by her contrasting personalities. Cartman's brash and often obnoxious humor clashes with Wendy's strong-willed and principled nature. Their rivalry is exemplified through pranks, insults, and attempts to outsmart each other. Despite their frequent conflicts, there are instances when they unexpectedly get along, adding complexity to their relationship. The comedic tension between these two characters serves as a lighthearted and relatable depiction of typical childhood rivalries and friendships. Number 8. Butters gets grounded. A recurring and comedic theme in South Park involves the misadventures of Butters Stotch, a naive and innocent character who often finds himself in unusual situations. The running gag centers on Butters getting grounded by his parents for various reasons, often trivial or misunderstood.
Butters, what on earth has gotten into you?
I don't know, Dad. I'm just pissed off, I guess.
Despite his well-intentioned actions, Butters frequently faces punishment, leading to his confinement at home. This recurring scenario showcases the absurdity of the disciplinary measures imposed on Butters and the disconnect between his innocent intentions and the consequences he faces. The humorous aspect of the gag lies in the disproportionate punishment Butters receives and his parents' strict and often irrational approach to discipline. The recurring grounding episodes highlight Butters' resilience and optimism in the face of adversity, as well as his unwavering belief in his parents' authority. This running joke adds a layer of charm and relatability to Butters' character, making him a beloved and sympathetic figure in the show's universe. Number 7. They Killed Kenny. Now, here's one of the most famous jokes in South Park. They killed Kenny. You know Kenny, right? He's one of the main characters, and he's this kid who wears an orange parka all the time. Well, in almost every episode, something really crazy or dangerous happens to Kenny, and he ends up getting hurt in some wild way. And guess what? Every time something bad happens to Kenny, his friends react in a really funny way. They shout out, "Oh my god, they killed Kenny," and then add, "You bastards." It's like a catchphrase that they use over and over again. Even though Kenny often comes back in the next episode, they still act all shocked and surprised when he gets hurt. It's like this running gag where Kenny's friends care about him, but they also kind of expect him to get into trouble. So whenever something happens to Kenny, you can be sure you'll hear those famous lines. It's become a big part of South Park's humor, and a way for the show to make fun of how characters react in other TV shows. Number 6. A lot of history on that rod. One of the recurring comedic elements in South Park involves a character known as the creepy old farmer. This character serves as a parody of spooky and mysterious figures often found in horror movies or urban legends. He's known for sharing eerie and gruesome tales about the history of certain locations, particularly a place referred to as That Rod. The running gag revolves around the farmer's tendency to elaborate on the dark and unsettling history of the places, often with absurd and implausible details. This creates a humorous contrast between his intense storytelling and the mundane reality of the situations he describes. Number 5. They Took Our Jobs. A recurring and comedic theme in South Park revolves around the concept of job displacement and economic change.
They took our jobs. Yeah, they down. Took our jobs. They did. They took our jobs.
This running gag centers on the arrival of various groups of immigrants, including time-traveling workers known as the Goobacks and individuals from the future. These newcomers offer to perform jobs for lower wages, leading to widespread unemployment and economic turmoil. The catchphrase, "They took our jobs," is repeatedly exclaimed by characters as a humorous refrain throughout the series. The gag highlights the characters' reactions to shifts in the job market and their often exaggerated responses to perceived threats to their livelihoods. Number 5. A glorious day for Canada, and therefore the world. In South Park, there's a funny joke that's all about Canada, the friendly neighbor to the north. The people from Canada have their own special ways of doing things, and sometimes they make a really big deal out of stuff that might not be a big deal for everyone else. They say things like, "What a glorious day for Canada, and therefore the world," even if what they did isn't really that amazing.
What a wonderful day it is for him. What a wonderful day it is for all of us.
This running joke is like a playful way of making fun of how people from Canada sometimes act. They act like their actions are super important and affect everyone on the planet, even if it's just something simple. It's a way of poking fun at how some folks can be a bit too proud of themselves. Number 4. I learned something today. Have you watched a TV show where at the end of each episode the characters learn a lesson and talk about how they've changed? Well, South Park likes to have a bit of fun with that idea. They do this thing where the characters go through a whole adventure and by the end they realize something important. They might say, "I learned something today," and talk about what they figured out.
You see, I learned something today. That controversial issue we were just talking about, well, it had two sides, and neither side was 100% perfect.
But the funny part is that sometimes the lessons they learn are really silly or don't make much sense. It's like the show is showing how other TV shows can be a bit predictable with their lessons. So in South Park, they take those lessons and make them funny, showing how characters can go from not knowing to knowing something, even if it's not always super deep or smart. Number 2. The Visitors. In this running gag from South Park, a group of skinny gray aliens known as the Visitors make recurring appearances throughout the show.
You guys shut up. I'm not under alien control. Hey, if you visitors can hear me, bring me back my little brother.
They first appear as antagonists in the series' early episodes and then continue to pop up in various episodes over the years. These aliens are often seen in unexpected places and situations, making them a humorous and surprising element in the show. The characters in the show interact with the Visitors, sometimes recognizing them and other times not. Despite their initial menacing role, the Visitors take on a more comedic presence as the series progresses, turning them into a recurring joke. Their frequent cameos, sometimes with humorous disguises or roles, make them a distinctive and amusing part of the South Park universe. Number 1. Asking Chef inappropriate questions. Chef, a beloved character in South Park, often finds himself in awkward situations as the kids bombard him with uncomfortable and inappropriate questions.
Hey, Chef, what's a prostitute?
Dag nabbit children, how come every time you come in here you gotta be asking me questions I shouldn't be answering?
This running gag highlights the kids' tendency to seek answers from Chef on topics that are too sensitive or mature for their age. Chef's role as a mentor and educator means he's often the go-to person for the kids when they have questions about life, relationships, or other adult matters. The gag involves the kids consistently asking Chef questions that range from mildly awkward to outright taboo, creating humorous situations as Chef navigates these conversations with a mix of discomfort and humor. The recurring theme of the kids seeking guidance from Chef, especially in situations where they should be asking their parents, showcases the innocence and curiosity of childhood. This running gag provides comedic relief by highlighting the generation gap between the kids and the adults, as well as Chef's sometimes over-the-top reactions to their inquiries. So that seems enough for this video. Which South Park gags amazed you the most? Tell us in the comments section, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button.